This dude throws 7 innings, which a lot of starters don't do anymore.
Yep.
He goes for 10 strikeouts, gives up 2 runs. They get the win last night. And the focus of the crowd, the energy of the crowd was around supporting Max Scherzer, celebrating the addition of him to the team. And then the team goes out there and wins. He gets a curtain call at Dodger Stadium. You don't often see the curtain call for the starting pitcher. And he said he's never gotten that in his entire life. And it was something that was incredibly meaningful and moving to him. And it's a reminder to all these fans now who have the privilege to go to games, to get back into their favorite ballparks or arenas, to cheer on their favorite team. Look at the results of this Dodger game. Tune into the energy. The first night against the Astros, it's dark energy. They don't put up a run. Second night, they're supporting Scherzer. It's positive, good vibes, good energy. They go out there and get the win. And then I find out later that the Dodgers also picked up Cole Hamels.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
How did this happen?
It happened like late last night.
Are they like their own season, like a video game, and they're just creating their own roster moves to try to see if they can get the most star players?
Yeah, it's an interesting move. Cole Hamels also, near the end of his career, probably on the last couple of holes.
Sure.
Why not? See if he can
Cole Hamels and Albert Pujols is the best 2008 team of all time.
Seriously, like eat up some innings for the. I don't know how he's going to be used.
So I saw that addition, and I know Brockman is a card-carrying Dodger hater. Doesn't love the boys in blue out here. But when you add another future Hall of Famer potentially, or a multiple-time All-Star,
Big deal.
It's a big deal. But it also made me want to kind of throw this out there to you guys this morning as fans of all these different teams. And we see it now in this season of player mobility. It's the NBA free agency. It's the time where trades are being talked about. We'll get into some rumors around Deshaun Watson later on the show. But the idea as fans, do you want your team to go out there and get all the best players and get the best guys because you need that to win? Or do you want to have homegrown talent? Do you want to feel an emotional connection to those players that came up through the draft or you took a chance on when they were cast-offs? Do you enjoy rooting for a new all-star team every year of the best players? Or is it that emotional connection to the guys who you remember when they weren't very good and you came up? You see it with Giannis and Chris Middleton, 2 homegrown talent. They're 8 years, and that's an eternity in today's NBA, where Russell Westbrook's on his 4th team in 4 years after winning an MVP. So, TJ, I ask you, as a card-carrying member and maybe the only Mets, Sixers, Cowboys fan on planet Earth, do you want to see all the big stars wearing the star? Or do you want to have your talent homegrown?
Man, that's a tough question, man, because obviously you can't just solely rely on homegrown talent. You have to have some people coming in from other organizations. But there is something to be said about that guy that you picked second, especially when you're not a first rounder, obviously. When you're the second, third rounder and you see them ascend and you see them rise and they come up and they become really good. I think that as a fan of the team, you do maybe take a little bit more pride in that.
I think it's so cool. Like the Denver Nuggets, for example, you talk about second rounders. They draft a second rounder from Serbia. He wins the MVP. They draft Michael Porter Jr., who looks like the bad guy in a Mighty Ducks movie, all grown up.
Mighty Ducks.
Like at the Mighty Ducks, they play the bad team, and then flash forward 15 years, it looks like what Michael Porter Jr. would look.
I totally agree with that. That's
a good assessment.
Excellent analogy.
Jamal Murray, homegrown talent for them. So it's fun to be a Nuggets fan. You get in there and you add some pieces. And I don't know, I just think there's something in today's sports where you end up rooting for laundry at the end of the day. You don't have any emotional connection. I was on a text chain, I'm part of Laker Nation now. So I'm on a text chain with all my purple and gold friends. And some of the guys are saying, like, do I root for Kent Bazemore now? I guess Kent Bazemore's played on 4 teams. And, is he, I guess now he's a Laker. So we got to root for him.
Yeah, if he's on your team, you root for him.
That's how it goes, but just the idea of, next year he's going to be on another team, and you're just really rooting for laundry at the end of the day. So how do you find these emotional connection points? I mean, you look back at some of your favorite teams growing up in Boston. Yeah. It's guys who you felt like came up through your program or through your team.
Yeah, especially when you look at some of the 04 championship teams, especially 07, because I was just starting out as a young newspaper reporter in Maine at the time, and the Red Sox AA affiliate is in Portland, Maine. It's the Portland Sea Dogs. And so I saw a lot of those guys play in the minor leagues. Dustin Pedroia, Jonathan Papelbon, even John Lester, and Kevin Youkilis. I saw those guys come up. Jacoby Ellsbury, they played through the system. Even Hanley Ramirez, who ended up getting traded for Josh Beckett and then later came back to the Red Sox. So I felt more connected to those teams because I saw these guys as young minor leaguers, got to talk with them in the clubhouse and see them play in front of only 3,000 fans. But, when you are the Red Sox, you can also acquire anyone basically who you want. So you go out and get Manny Ramirez in free agency. You go out and, you get Chris Sale with a trade. And so, it is tough. You try to walk that line as a fan of yes, I love this guy because I love Paul Pierce because we drafted him and he could have demanded a trade at any point in his career, but he didn't. He stayed in Boston and ultimately won a championship. But at the same time, I love Kevin Garnett, even though we acquired him much later in his career. So I see both sides of it, but seeing those homegrown guys definitely hits.
Ben Lyons in for Rich on the Rich Eisen Show, and we've got Charles Robinson calling up from Yahoo Sports about 10 minutes, talk some football. But it's obviously a mix of guys. You want to have men and women who are drafted by the team you root for, and then you want to fill it in with those, maybe star players. But I think about the Brooklyn Nets right now. And if you're some hipster living in Williamsburg who grows their own vegetables on top of your roof, are you sitting there being like, wow, I've put in so much time. I have such an emotional, deep connection to these Brooklyn Nets. So many nights going to the Barclays, which is a nightclub with the lights turned on, and buying overpriced Armadale, rooting on this team. Is Brooklyn in the house? Yes, we're here. Do you feel that connection? And then also, what does that mean now? Julius Randle just signed for a big bag with the Knicks, and he's been with the Knicks for 3 years now. Does that mean he's one of our guys as a Knicks fan? It's his third team, and he's 26 years old. It's just, R.J. Barrett drafted by the team, but Kyle Kuzma, before he was traded, was the longest tenured Laker. It's just so a different time of player mobility and how you form these connections. So I was just thinking about that watching the Dodgers last night. I guess Max Scherzer now is a Dodger. He's embraced, has that amazing moment, gets the curtain call after the debut performance. Then they go out and get Cole Hamels and it's Albert Pujols, and they got Mookie Betts from you guys. And it's just, I guess I'm rooting for the Dodgers. Yeah, they're my favorite team. But you just got to kind of go through stuff with these players you root for in order to feel emotionally connected to them.
I'm wondering if our generation, we're all kind of the same age in here. If our generation are the last ones who are our first number one loyalty is the team where we grew up.
There's certain reasons behind that. Technology being a big one. If someone said growing up in Boston in the 90s that, oh, I'm a diehard Detroit Tigers fan, you say, really? How many games have you actually watched? Because they're never on television here.
Right. How many games have you actually been to? It's just I just think of young people now, you're kind of loyal to the player that you like because they do move around so much. So even Matt Damon, who is older than we are, but he said, oh yeah, I root for the Bucks now because I love Tom Brady. And I totally kind of get that, our Josiah just this week, he loves LeBron James. So wherever LeBron James is, that's the team that he rooted for. He rooted for the Cavs. He rooted for Miami. He rooted now for the Lakers. So it's
So then why were you so confused yesterday when I showed my allegiance to somebody who led the league in scoring with the oldest team in the history of the sport, who had to celebrate Jason Kidd's 40th birthday in the Garden. I have allegiance to this man.
See, Ben, and on the flip of what Chris just said, as these guys know, my favorite teams aren't necessarily from Pennsylvania. I'm a Sixer fan, but my favorite football team isn't the Steelers, it's the Cowboys. My favorite baseball team isn't the Pirates, it's the Mets.
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
the only Mets, Sixers, Cowboys fan on planet Earth. You're the only one.
Don't like those teams, but I have never subscribed to the theory that because you were born here, you have to root for this team. That's never made sense to me, and it's been an argument I've had with people my entire sporting life. Just because I'm from here,
it was the ultimate out-of-town fan. My dad grew up in Manhattan, lived in the city his entire life, and is the biggest Boston Red Sox fan on the planet. He knows which streets to walk up and down 6th Avenue where you can kind of 40% get WEEI.
That's amazing.
On the radio. He has a zigzag route of New York City where the static.
Didn't your dad buy a house based upon the fact that he could pick up Red Sox radio from that location?
Absolutely, yes. They were fortunate enough to buy a second home, and he was walking around and trying to get Red Sox radio games out in the Poconos. Nope, the mountains, nope, no signal. Got to go out to Long Island, get it over Long Island Sound.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.